Hey y'all, and welcome into the Alabama Football Report. I'm going to be taking you through some news and then into all of the hottest recruiting rumors straight from Tuscaloosa. At number 1, the Tide coaching staff for 2018 set in stone. Well, you best believe it. We're giving that one 4 Bear Bryant hats. Roll Tide. Now, all off-season, I've been reporting on the coaching carousel that has been taking place in Tuscaloosa, and I am happy to say the carousel is coming to a halt. Alabama head coach Nick Saban officially announced Thursday the addition of Dan Enos and Craig Kuligowski to the Crimson Tide coaching staff. As I've said in previous shows, Enos will serve as associate head coach and quarterbacks coach for the Tide, while Kuligowski will be an associate head coach and coach the defensive line. Saban also officially announced the promotion of Mike Locksley to offensive coordinator and Tosh Lupoy to defensive coordinator. Both Locksley and Lupoy were co-coordinators for the Tide in 2017. Pete Golding will serve as inside linebackers coach and serve as co-defensive coordinator, while Josh Gaddis will be the co-offensive coordinator and work with the receivers. Joe Panunzio will take over as the Crimson Tide's running back coach, and with Jeff Banks serving as tight ends coach and special teams coordinator. You might be wondering, wait, Panunzio, running backs coach? What happened to Burton Burns? Well, that brings us to our next bit of news. Running back coach moving to a new role. This is another Roll Tide, ladies and gentlemen, for Bear Bryant hats. So, Burns will serve as the assistant athletics director for the football program, Saban announced Thursday afternoon. Burton has been a crucial part of our success over the past 11 years and has done an outstanding job with our running back, Saban said in the release. He is an essential member of our staff as he takes on a new challenge as our assistant athletics director for football. Burns, who just completed his 11th season as a running backs coach, moves off the field after a decorated tenure that included 5 national championships and 5 SEC titles. He coached Alabama's first 2 Heisman Trophy winners, with Mark Ingram bringing home the award in 2009 and Derrick Henry following in 2015. He also helped Trent Richardson and Henry win the Doak Walker Award while guiding 7 running backs to NFL careers. All right, guys, my name is Lena Bond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lena Bond Sports. I have 9 bits of news and rumors to go through. Then we're going to be taking a look at Alabama's 2019 recruiting class, the players who've committed and the players Alabama's looking to target. Before we move on to our next bit of news, let's go ahead and take a look at our rumor-o-meter scale. So 0 Bryant hats means fake news, no accuracy behind the report. 1 Bryant hat, Paul shouting out Phyllis from Mulga, which means it's pretty unlikely. 2 Bryant hats, people are talking, we can't confirm, but where there is smoke, there is fire. 3 Bryant hats, more probable than not, but our sources in Tuscaloosa are yet to confirm. And then 4 Bear Bryant hats, Roll Tide, it is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's move on to our next rumor. Did a college football coach sing Jaylen Waddle's praises, even calling him the most dynamic wide receiver he's ever seen? Well, we're giving this one 2 Bear Bryant hats. People are talking. So our source in Tuscaloosa can't confirm this, is mainly just coming from Waddle's high school coach. And he said that on National Signing Day, a prominent college coach supposedly told him that, Waddle's the most dynamic wide receiver he's ever seen, and he's been around a while. Now, if you watch Waddle's highlight tape, it takes less than a minute to understand that the 5'10", 175-pound Texas native has a rare speed and playmaking ability. He was one of Alabama's top wide receiver targets for this year's recruiting class, and maybe even the top one. And even though the Crimson Tide returns 3 wide receivers that contributed a lot as freshmen last season, Waddle will be in the mix to play a lot as a true freshman. All right, guys, let's move on to our next rumor here. Is there a new focus in recruiting where promotions and hirings given out to focus on the Rust Belt, kind of the Big Ten country? Well, we're giving this 3 Bear Bryant hats, all right? That's pretty probable. So Alabama's new low coaching staff features many coaches with ties to the Rust Belt, and the Tide may gain some more inroads to the talented Cleveland and Detroit areas. Enos was on Michigan staff earlier this season, but spent the majority of his career with Central Michigan and Michigan State. The 2013 #1 overall pick, Eric Fisher from the state of Michigan, was recruited by Enos at Central Michigan. Locksley spent many years of his career with Maryland and Illinois. He is credited with luring at least 9 players from the Washington, D.C. area for Illinois from 2005 through 2008. including wide receiver Aurelius Ben, 2007 Big Ten Freshman of the Year. So who else is smelling a top 3 recruiting class next season? And speaking of the recruiting trail, let's kind of take a look at some of the things might be happening for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Pretty notably, is Alabama going to flip a 5-star commit who's currently committed to Georgia? Well, I'm giving this one 2 Bear Bryant hats, okay? People are talking. So 5-star defensive end and Georgia commit Nolan Smith headed to Tuscaloosa over the weekend for Junior Day. He said it was a great visit. I sat down and talked to Coach Tosh and it was fun and everything like that. I just had a great time with them. Smith has been committed to Georgia for over a year now, but has continued to listen to other programs, most notably the Crimson Tide. And what keeps him coming back to the capstone? The coaches, really, he said. That's what drives the program. Coach Tosh in the defensive coordinator spot, he's also my position coach. It's great to talk with him and to sit down with him and just be around him. Alabama sees the 6'3", 232-pounder as a jack linebacker, which both rush the passer and can drop back in coverage. Another notable happening from Saturday was Tide early enrollee defensive lineman Stephon Wynn, an IMG alum himself, replied to one of Smith's tweets at Alabama saying, "New home, lil' bro." That is interesting. Smith is rated the number 3 weak side defensive end and the number 5 overall player in the country for 2019, according to 24/7 Sports. All right, on to number 6. A 4-star wide receiver. Did he feel at home when he visited Alabama? Well, this is a Roll Tide, ladies and gentlemen. 4 Bear Bryant hats for this one. 24/7 top receiver Micah Pittman got his first look at Alabama over the weekend, and don't expect it to be his last as he left campus with an offer and is feeling good about the Crimson Tide. "It was awesome. I felt like home," Pittman said. "They welcomed me with open arms." Pittman had never visited a college this far from his West Coast home, but he says his interest in playing for Nick Saban and company is, quote, definitely high. Several things stood out for him during the visit. The great coaches and their tradition of winning and their awesome facility, he said, adding that Nick Saban, Jeff Banks, and company made a big impression. Checking in as the country's number 52 prospect, regardless of position, Pittman's offer list is stacked by powerhouses from coast to coast. All right, let's move on to number 7 now. Is Bama interested in bringing in an ACC transfer from Clemson, of all places? Well, we're giving this one 3 Bear Bryant hats, more probable than not. So Alabama missed out on 2 of its defensive line targets on National Signing Day as Bobby Brown and Malik Langham both landed elsewhere. With that being said, Nick Saban didn't rule out the Tide looking on the transfer circuit for more big bodies in the trenches. One name to keep an eye out for is Clemson defensive lineman Sterling Johnson, who received his release to transfer from the Tigers last week. New defensive assistant Pete Golding reached out to Johnson on Twitter, initiating some small talk, as Johnson described it. Now, Miami had been mentioned as the most likely destination for Johnson prior to the news that the Hurricanes defensive line coach, Craig Kuligowski, was expected to be named that same position at Alabama. That move, however, Johnson said shouldn't make an impact on whether or not he decides to play for Alabama, stating he never really knew him. We'll see about that, all right? So at 6'5", 281 pounds, Johnson was rated the number 29 defensive tackle and the 494th player overall in the 2015 class. And in his time with the Tigers, the former Under Armour All-American notched 14 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and 2 sacks. All right, let's keep it on with these recruiting rumors. Number 8 is a 4-star athlete gonna pick Bama. Well, he named him as his top school. We're giving this 4 Bear Bryant hats. Roll Tide. So you'd be hard-pressed to find a recruit who enjoyed his time in Tuscaloosa on Saturday more than 4-star athlete Christian Harris. He said, "Well, the Alabama visit was the best visit I've ever had. I literally couldn't say anything negative about the place. They have everything I'm looking for in a school, which is a great academic program with academic support, great coaches who are willing to push you to your best potential, and a head coach that doesn't just care about football, but cares about your life and your future. Also, I know if I got there, they can help me fulfill my lifelong dream, which is to play in the NFL." At 6'1", 225 pounds, is inside linebacker the Tides likes for this Baton Rouge, Louisiana prospect. Alabama offered him earlier this month, joining over a dozen other programs. After Saturday, though, it's the Tide that's on top. "Yes, sir," Harris responded when asked if Alabama is his leader. Harris is currently the number 23 athlete and the 268 overall player in the country. All right, last rumor for you guys, and this one's a really fun one. So Bear Bryant's great-grandson, is he going to suit up and be a Tide quarterback? Well, people are talking, okay? So we're giving this one 2 Bear Bryant hats. Paul Tyson, who is emerging as a top 2019 quarterback recruit, never met his great-grandfather Bear Bryant, but he is interested in playing on the same field the legend coached on so many years ago. Also, Tyson has just started to receive interest from the Crimson Tide. Just last month, he was invited to Alabama's Junior Day event. He met with Nick Saban, Brian Daboll, Jeremy Pruitt, and Brent Key, who went to Tyson's current high school. And you'd think that Paul Tyson feels a lot of pressure to live up to his great-grandfather's name, but in truth, he relishes in it. He said, "It's really an honor just knowing that I can be a part of that program that my great-grandfather was. Walking down the halls where he coaches, the offices where he sat in, means a lot to me because my great-grandfather coached there. I love that because he pushes me even more to work harder even now to this day. I want my name to be just as big as his, and I want to be just like him one day." The 6'4", 210-pound prospect is definitely someone you want to keep an eye on for the 2019 Crimson Tide recruiting class.